The Amazing World of Gumball is a lovely show, and Darwin, Raglan, Caspian, Nicodemus, Watterson III, I believe was his full name, is one of the most lovely characters from that show. So recently, Cartoon Network posted this lovely image on Twitter of Darwin and our other iconic hashtag Cartoon Network show styles. Which one is your favorite? So these are drawings of Darwin in styles from different shows. We see Ed, Edd and Eddy here. Regular show, a little bit of Adventure Time action. Steven Universe, Dexter's Lab. They should have included Craig of the Creek, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain too much about it. I'm like one person. So as you can see, what Darwin is depicted in his human variations here, he is depicted as a black kid. And it has been headcanoned for a very long time by many people that Darwin was a black kid due to multiple things. Basically, a lot of people felt like he was black-coded, that the way he was written, and also who voiced him, the people who voiced Darwin were always black kids. A lot of people felt that Darwin was kind of written to be like a stand-in for like a black adopted child. And a lot of people took this as kind of like a little bit of confirmation coming from Cartoon Network Direct, that that's kind of what Darwin, you know, was written to be, or at least what was kind of decided to be canon of Darwin after he was released as a character. And then Twitter happened. Of course, and then Twitter happened. Hey Cartoon Network, why don't you use Splinter in the next one and show us how you associate a rat with Asian people when human, since it's to compare POC/black people to animals, not like that's a stereotype or anything. And then this person submitted their own drawings of Darwin in these other shows, art styles of him as a fish. And don't harass this person. Don't harass this person. But as you can see, they are getting, as the kids call it, getting their ass beat in the quote retweets, as we can all see here, and for good reason. Okay, so there is a history of comparing black people to animals in media. That has always been a thing. Fish, though, is not one thing that black people have been compared to. Also, I do have authority to speak on this situation since I am a melanated man myself. Before anyone tries to pull rank on me, I'm very obviously black. So, let's get into this. I'm black, y'all, I'm black, y'all, I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm also a very big fan of animation. And a critique that I see of a lot of animated media in terms of black people is the idea that a lot of animated media will take minorities and black people and turn them into animals as a way to be, you know, kind of racist and not include black representation. Like Lucky Otter said, it's mostly monkeys that we are compared to. But I saw this most recently in memory with Pixar's movie Soul, in which the black main character spent most of his time as like a little spirit object, but then like his body also kind of got possessed by like a different character, Soul number 21, I think it was, in the movie their name was. And you know, we did see that black character in the movie, and I did think that was very good. And the thing is, this is a criticism that can be founded if it is a trend. Like, for example, I thought in Princess and the Frog, the fact that characters like Tiana spent most of the movie as frogs to be kind of weird, especially since in other Disney movies, it isn't really a trend to turn the main character into an animal for most of the movie. The only other movie that's happened then was like The Emperor's New Groove, and that was played off for like laughs. But for like Pixar, most of their movies center around non-human characters. So I kind of think that reaction that a lot of people had was a little bit unfounded. Or Spies in Disguise, yeah, that also did it, where they turned Will Smith into like a pigeon, which I haven't seen that movie. I can't really speak on it, but that was also something that I saw a criticism thereof. However, we have seen in the quote retweets here, or at least I have seen, isn't he native? Yeah, but native is still POC. And I was using that in relation to Princess and the Frog. The fact of the matter is, here, in this situation, it largely comes down to the idea, and here's, what do you post? You have an 18 plus in your bio before I highlight your tweet, because that was a very good tweet. I need to make sure that you don't post any weird shit. Looks like mostly video game crap. Okay. But we see here someone said very succinctly what my opinion on this very much is. Cartoons have anthropomorphic non-human characters because they are fun. Kids want to see fun characters that they relate to. Many POC/Black people identify with Darwin because he is voiced by a black child. I'm unconvinced this is an issue. And this is exactly how I feel about it too. As a kid, when I watched The Amazing World of Gumball, I'm not gonna lie, I looked at Darwin and I was like, that is, right there, a melanated brother. I didn't say it like that, I was like 8. But I absolutely related to Darwin as a character, both in his personality, and his voice actor, like who his voice actor was when I found out. And I'm not gonna lie, as a little kid, I internalized the idea that Darwin was written in part to be a black kid. And I didn't feel like it was out of racism at all, because Darwin in the show is consistently one of the sweetest, kindest. Like, Darwin is one of the only people in the show who isn't like a complete and utter piece of shit. Like, Darwin is actually a good person in the show. And the fact that this person like immediately reacts to this in like some violent way, like, oh well, why don't you compare it to other characters, and don't you think it's like a little weird to like make a person that you meant to be like a person of color, like a black character, isn't a little weird to make them an animal in like your show? Almost everyone in The Amazing World of Gumball is a non-human character. The only time in The Amazing World of Gumball when characters are explicitly human or human-like, they are almost always villains. Like, for example, that one time when the Watterson family became humans, they were prompted by basically Trump. Let me pull this up. The person who effectively tried to turn the Watterson family into humans in The Amazing World of Gumball in that one episode, like the model family, looked like this. He was based pretty explicitly off of Trump, and that was pointed, like, when they made them humans. Yeah, they did make Darwin a dog here, but they were criticizing the idea that the Watterson should be like some strive to be some model human family or some crap. Yeah. You also have the final episode of The Amazing World of Gumball when Rob's plan was to turn the members and like society of Elmore, everyone, into humans to avoid rebooting. And that was seen as a bad thing in the show. That plot to basically rob people of their unique personality by making them and forcing them to be humans. Almost, which is a screenshot here. Thankfully, it got pulled up right here just by me scrolling down a little bit. In this episode, this was not treated as a good thing. The fact of the matter is, in The Amazing World of Gumball, almost no one is human, and almost every human-like character ends up not being a good person. Yeah? Darwin being black-coded is not racism in this case. He isn't mocked for his black coding. There's an episode where they quite literally, when like the Watterson family think that Darwin doesn't feel as comfortable being with them, so like they kind of play into fish stereotypes to make him more comfortable, and he just ends up feeling bad about it when all he wanted was like a bigger tank to sleep in at night. Like like they don't treat Darwin like he's an alien member to the family, or like he doesn't fit in or something like that. They love him, they care for him as a child, and even though he was initially like an adopted fish, he became part of the family. Anais in the show repeatedly refers to Darwin as one of her older brothers, and even though Darwin refers to Nicole and Richard as like Mrs. Mom and Mrs. Dad, that literally came from like the fact that in the Origins episode when Darwin started talking, he was saying like Mr. and Mrs. Watterson, and like Richard and Nicole were like, no, just call us Mom and Dad, not like Mrs. Mom and Mrs. Dad. They were just like, no, call us Mom and Dad, because we're your parents. And then Darwin was like, oh yeah, Mrs. Mom and Mrs. Dad, and then they just like went like, okay, you know what, if he's gonna do that, he's gonna do that. It's cute. He's part of the family. The way that Darwin is treated in the show is not in like some racist way. And to overreact and go like, oh, well, black people are very often turned into like animals in media, and this is like heavily dehumanizing. Like, shut the fuck up. Yeah? Because what this does is it makes these kinds of criticism, whenever this is actually happening maliciously, whenever a black-coded character is actually turned into an animal, or a black-coded character is made into like a racist depiction of a black person, and then that's turned into an animal, or like you have a black-coded character that is just like some fucking animal, it makes it actually not... it makes those actual valid criticisms not as salient, because you have shit like that. Yeah? There are ways to write POC characters without including skin color. As an aspiring writer, I did the opposite, writing characters who are actually white, but just changing their skin color. Yeah. Yeah, it's crying wolf, like the Dark Canuck says. What you're doing here is you are basically tossing this accusation so far out that when it actually happens, people are less likely to listen to you. Which is why I didn't like it when people did it with Pixar Soul, because that didn't feel like an issue either. Because again, most Pixar movies follow non-human characters. Encoding characters is something that happened. Going back to Pixar, Mater is clearly supposed to be some country bumpkin dude. Yeah? And he's a car, he's a tow truck, or like Flo from the Cars movie. I always kind of felt that she was like a black lady, like a black auntie. That's what she reminded me of. And she's a car. But I don't think it's racist to depict them that way. Because coding is what we do in media. Characters are coded in certain ways that evoke certain emotions in us, or like certain associations in our mind. And can that be done racistly? Yeah. But sometimes it isn't, and Darwin is one of those cases where his black coding isn't done in a racist manner. Same thing with Flo in Cars. Same thing with like... Actually, I'm not going to say Sebastian and the Little Mermaid. They they did really lean into the Caribbean stereotypes with that one. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. You have to look at it and go, was this done racistly? Was this not done racistly? What do we do about it? How do we feel about it? And as other people highlighted in this person's quote retweets, the reason why the interpretation of Darwin being a black-coded character became so popular is because a lot of black watchers of The Amazing World of Gumball related to him as a character and looked at his voice actors and went, oh, sick, he's voiced by a black kid, he might be meant to be black. Which is exactly how I felt as a kid myself. Especially like in an ecosystem where we don't get like many black characters in media. When I was growing up as a little kid, you know what black character I knew on TV as a kid growing up? None. No explicitly black characters on TV in the cartoons that I watched growing up. At all. Like, the newest cartoon that I think has came out recently with like an explicitly black main character, who was like black, was Craig of the Creek, and that came out after I really stopped watching cartoons. You know, like, as, like, my primary form of media, even though I do still watch them. I love cartoons, they have a special place in my heart. And I love Craig of the Creek, but, like, that wasn't out when I was growing up. I couldn't relate to Craig when I was growing up. I have to do that retroactively now. Closest thing I got to a black character growing up in media was, like, Static Shock. Static Shock came before my time. I had Garnet and Steven Universe. Garnet and Steven Universe. And that is what I had. Yeah? And she isn't even black, she's black-coded. And to go back here, Kiana Mai is an artist I really love, or Kiana May, I don't know how I say her last name. But she's an artist that I love. She is Jamaican and Japanese. And this is fan art that she did years ago of The Amazing World of Gumball. I don't know what happened there on my Twitter. Come on. Come on. Also go follow her. She's an amazing artist. She's worked on many good TV shows. I believe she is or was working on Big City Greens. But like years ago, she drew Gumball and Darwin from The Amazing World of Gumball. And well, Darwin specifically, as a black kid. Probably for the same reason that other people did. See? Woo validation. She literally validation in seeing this very tweet from Cartoon Network. This isn't an issue. Yeah, it would be one thing if it was done racistly, but it wasn't. We need to stop taking things that are innocuous or things that even make people happy. Because I was happy in seeing this myself. It felt like validation to me as a little kid looking at him and going, oh, he's black, and now me, 18 years old, looking at this tweet and going, what I felt was like kind of true. It felt good, you know? But no, we have to have some people reacting in this negative manner for some reason, and immediately sensing blood in the water when there is none. This is perfectly fine. I'm glad that this fact about Darwin was kind of lightly confirmed. It's when it gets down to it, this representation is pretty important. I'm glad that it happened, and I'm excited to see what happens with the Gumball series going forward, with the movie and whatnot. I'm glad we got to see this, and drop your thoughts down below. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Link in the description below to my social medias, my Twitter, my Discord, so that you know whenever I'm going live. Also make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so that you know whenever I'm going live or I upload a video. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. Gotta hit the stop record button.